Well, our next guest has been dedicated to detailing the journey of immigrants from China for decades in many art forms, including film and photography. And his latest work includes a very personal story after finding letters written to his mother over the years. Paul Wong's book, Occupying Chinatown, is being released this weekend, and Paul Wong is with us now. Hello there. So good to see you.
Hello from Vancouver, Chinatown. We're at my studio here. Nice to be speaking with you.
I know you've got some very interesting pieces on that on the shelves behind you too. But I'm looking right at you here, Paul. Now, in this book, you introduce us to your mother. Who was Sukfang Wong?
Um, was Susan Suk Fong Wong, you know, um, immigrated here in 1949. She had married my father, um, really as a mail order bride. Um, he came over from Canada to marry her in Hong Kong. But the story goes is that she actually fainted when he arrived to meet her in Hong Kong because he had been sending photographs of him as a much younger man. As it turned out, he was 30 years older than my mother.
Oh my, that's duplicitous. That's duplicitous. So as you delve into your mother's past, then where do the letters come into play? Where did you find them?
Well, starting like around 2012, when my mother was, experiencing progressive Alzheimer's, um, I was really doing a lot of recording and observations of her, and listening and watching to the idea of what is being lost here and what is being forgotten. And I did try to do a lot of recording and a lot of listening, but somewhat later, years later, I discovered these 900 letters written to my mother in her bedroom. These 900 letters really struck me. They were written to her from mostly relatives in mainland China, in southern China. And of course, these are letters written to her, and her voice is not necessarily in them. So I was really struck by, again, that silence. But yet, reading these letters, you filled in what was missing, or what you thought was missing, which is her voice. Which,
Interesting. Again, from different perspectives. And when you look at this collection, and it's amazing, you've got 900 letters. But what does this collection of letters tell you about your mother's experience moving here, maintaining ties back home?
she was the only one of 8 siblings to get a chance to come to these shores before the communist lockdown. She came from a bourgeois family, a landowner, a business family, in a very, very small village um, in southern China. And I guess the journey of reading these letters over the decades is you get to really um, see and feel for the people writing to her, and their hopes and dreams. Their hopes and dreams um, really laid with her here in Canada.
Oh my, that's a lot of pressure on her with so much expectation, I guess, from back home. So ultimately, Paul, how did you decide to put all of this into a book? There's the letters, the history, but your art as well as essays.
Organizing and first of all, seeing and sorting and organizing um, these letters into various kinds of piles and stacks. First of all, I can't read or write. So to me, visually, these letters were fascinating. Um, just these thin pieces of paper in little envelopes or those aerograms that you fold. So a lot of times I would just hold up and really look and smell and unfold and these pieces of rice paper, this parchment, scraps of a very fine, lightweight paper. So the idea of working with paper and making a book with some of these letters, I mean, that was kind of the inspiration. Is you know the idea of old school paper. So I really wanted to make, as it turned out, a very beautiful book.
And you did that. It is a very beautiful book. And interesting that you were working on this while you were an artist in residence at the Dr. Sun Yat-sen Chinese Garden. How did just being there impact your creative process?
In 2018, at the same simultaneously with a year-long residency at Dr. Sun Yat-sen Gardens, I also moved into my Chinatown studio, which is on Kiefer Street, 5 minutes from the garden. So working with these materials and the history kind of disappearing Chinatown, and certainly thinking about the Paws, the women of my mother's generation, and being really site specific, you know, right back in the neighborhood, right back on the streets of Chinatown, um, really added to the research and development and the feel, and really kind of what the work was talking about and who I was trying to share it with, which is very much a sort of a you know a very lost and very thin Chinese Canadian history.
What do you think your mother would think of your book?
Oh, she would love it. I think that um, you know all mothers uh, you know would be proud of their children's accomplishments, but certainly she was never shy about wanting to share her stories, and her her story is really reflects not just her, but you know the thousands of women of her generation.
It's interesting that you talk about putting this all together with the backdrop of Vancouver's Chinatown. And certainly the future of Chinatown is a hot topic these days, just how to maintain the history going forward there. What would you like to see happen in Chinatown to honor its past?
Well, I sit here looking out, at a disappearing Chinatown. I look down. There's yet another shop that's closed down last week. Um, I'm sitting at a very interesting time of what was, and we don't know what it's going to become. But I think definitely projects like this that um, uh, presents some life, some backdrop, some um, uh, history, and stories of everyday life of people like my mother and her generation, people like myself. I think contributes to what was and what's being lost when we don't look after our neighborhoods and our histories.
Paul, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you are in that picture when we talk about the Chinatown today. Congratulations on a beautiful work.
Thanks, Gloria.